All right, everyone, welcome to Game 3 of
Sorry.
DM Brandon. Blowing my
What?
cover here with that little laugh. We're heading into Game 3, of course, eLEMON versus the one, the only Denial EU, the victors of last week. We're heading into the picking stage already. We're already here. We're going to switch those screens up and jump into the match. First band's going to be Hell, of course, up against that Sprayer, and they really do not want him to have Hell, and for good reason. Naja's going to be the band from Denial in response, and look what eLEMON bands out next. They got about 7 seconds left. What do they decide to pick off? That is the question.
I'm interested. I mean, are they... Ooh, ISIS! I don't know why they did that. They haven't played them at all.
ISIS
Was
is
Sprayon
gone.
saving ISIS for Game 3? I mean, we've seen people play ISIS all week. I mean, super strong in mid lane. Ton of utility. I don't hate that ban, but they have to ban Bacchus or Sobek right now, or they're going to be in so much trouble. Actually, no, they don't. They ban Fenrir. They get one of the tanks. They get two of the tanks. Right now,
Easy
it
pick
looks
up.
like this
Whatever
is
they
in favor
pick up,
of
they'll
Denial.
get the next two.
Yeah.
So the Bacchus, Emir, Sobek immediately around, and any one of those, any two of those three tanks goes to one team. That is bad news bears for what the enemy team that realizes that, and that's why it's so important to ban at least one of those support tanks so that you get one of them for yourself, and the enemy team gets one. We've seen games where Emir, Sobek end up on the same team, Bacchus, Emir end up on the same team, and it's just so hard to deal with because those tanks are just super strong.
They really should pick Ymir here. They picked Odin. What? What?
So
I
Bacchus
don't,
and
I
Sobek,
don't like that. I don't like
they
that. That is
skipped the
double
Ymir.
initiation. They're losing the peel. They're losing the massive stun. They gave that Ymir pick away. This is suddenly an even game again. If they would have
pretty
picked
much
Odin,
Bacchus Emir or Sobek Emir. You don't really want to give up that Emir, which is like he's the foundation for the whole team.
especially when you have Bacchus diving in, if he hits two or three people with the ultimate, with the knockup, then you're guaranteed a Ymir stun into the burp stun. There's so much potential. What? What if they play three tanks? Like if they get Ymir here, like I don't know how to cast this.
They're doing a big AoE strategy, and Isis I think is one of the biggest counters to Odin overall with that ultimate.
Yeah.
So easy to just drop that down and counter it. So what they did is they banned out the Isis and then grabbed the Odin. So now they have that. They don't really have to worry about the Isis being picked up. Maybe we actually see Mugiwawa being subbed in here for this last match for Denial. But we'll see. Maybe they had a strategy that could counter that. It looks like Denial is playing very standard here. They're going to pick up on her. They're going to pick up Thor. They have Bacchus, Sobek. Now, they need to build this around the support tanks. I mean, they don't really have a whole lot of hard CC from their tanks. Sobek is really there for causing chaos. He's just interrupting people, throwing them around, being really annoying and getting in your face, but you're not going to have the hard CC or stopping power of Emir, which you really do need. Emir's the last pick on their team. I have never seen this happen.
I don't want to cast this. I'm leaving. I don't know what to think. I mean, they made a very educated gamble that they wouldn't go three tanks. But what if they did? What if they took the three strongest tanks in the game, put them on a team with then Agni and Anher? Like, what would you do about that? You can't do anything about that. But they got careful. I mean, they were careful. They decided we're not going to run three tanks. We're going to pick up Anher, who is top tier right now. We're going to pick up Thor, who's top tier right now. We have two of the best three tanks. I want to see Agni here. I want to see.
We haven't seen him.
I don't understand why he's a perfect character. And with this comp, with that double initiate, with the insane amount of peels, I mean, they have on her stun, they have on her pillar, they have the Sobek fling, the knockback, Bacchus's knockoff, Bacchus's stun. I mean, Aphrodite here can be very strong, but Agni was the damage they needed. But then again, Sprayon's Aphrodite is borderline insane. Like that. He is so good at these. What is with him that these female mid characters that can heal themselves? Like he's so good at them.
I don't know, but one thing to know on here, DM, is the fact that we do see Proxy QQ up on Guan Yu yet again, and Cobra Kai is running Odin, which means we might see a roaming jungle Odin.
They didn't pick Ymir. Like, why not send Odin to the jungle? I
I
don't.
mean, they could
What
do
do I know?
Odin Shout, which would give him a lot of extra attack speed, which would stack him up. I mean, if he went for the Death's Toll or, the Boomba's Mask Warrior Tabi, he'll be able to clear those camps decently with the Gunner's Might. And then once he gets level 5, if he goes up against Afro can't get out of the Odin Ultimate, Sobek can't get out of the Odin Ultimate. So if you go over to a side lane and one of those two characters, or even the middle lane, I mean, that might actually be a pretty strong counter to the Aphrodite mid, is if you get a hard block like the Odin Ultimate, especially with Poseidon, who can just kind of shoot his ultimate over the wall, release the Kraken inside of the Odin Ultimate, and shut down Aphrodite early. If Aphrodite falls behind, that kind of, diminishes the fact that you sent her mid in the first place.
I really like how you're trying to justify what's happening.
I want to. It's my job to. I have to.
I love it. But yeah, we're going to have the mid once again, Poseidon versus Aphrodite. Not the first time we've seen this today. Of course, Apollo on Smacktrix. I like this more than the On Her. I think his On Her is decent, but I think his ability to use that global ult is a lot stronger than other people's. And I think his Apollo is just a little bit better than his On Her. So I definitely think that's a good pickup. However, we did see him play On Her in the first game. It didn't really work out. But then again, the team comp was completely different. So far, I like what I see. I don't know that they're going to be roaming. I mean, Odin maybe has the chance to do a roaming jungle meta, but you have to consider the fact that he is very, very mana intensive. Gungnir's Might 3 times is basically going to drain him. So it's a rough call. I think they're going to go to lane.
Unless they invade, take the blue, then jungle his way back towards his blue and get that blue second, and then keep roaming and gank Aphrodite.
I think they give blue. They did start. They were the other side
for the blue and then jungle backwards.
Call them for the invade on the blue. Oh my.
Yeah.
And then jungle backwards.
Yo, justice will be delivered in this match.
Or they might just go to lane.
Justice.
So yes, it looks like Trix Tank was subbed out for this game. In place for Mugiwawa, which is a lot more fun to say and a lot more appropriate than Fat Master, strangely enough.
Who is still here.
Yeah. I'm going to call him Ymir this game.
This time around, for 30 seconds left to load back into the match, you can see the 10 gods on screen cascading backwards towards the astronomy painted across the space there. So we're going to see On Her, Aphrodite, Bacchus, Sobek, and then Thor. Of course, Fenrir and Naja being a very strange. I mean, just looking at the bands, it's so strange to look at these bands. Fenrir, Naja, Hell, Isis. I mean, such a weird set of bands. I mean, you look literally. I mean, even 2 weeks back, you wouldn't have expected this.
I still don't expect this. I'm still kind of at a loss for words. But going in the final team huddle they're going to have, who will they sacrifice this time? Last week versus Root, we saw them sacrifice the Minotaur twice in a row. One of them not working, and then sacrificing the Phoenix in Game 3 to give themselves a little bit of extra boost. And that Phoenix sacrifice forced, I think it was like a 37-3, that neighborhood against Root. It was rough.
It was very rough.
It was rough. Don't say it like that.
It was very rough.
Stop it.
Rough.
Bark.
So we have, of course, eLEMON Gaming going to be on the bottom side this time around, heading out to their lane setups. On the top side, we'll see Denial EU. We most likely will be doing their team huddle on their way out there as well. So we're going to wait for them to go ahead and finish that up. Now, on the way out, we'll see, how the lanes try to progress. We have Apollo, of course, up for eLEMON Gaming already setting up. So let's go ahead and cover the players and who they're playing and where they're going. For eLEMON Gaming, we will see Proxy QQ up on Guan Yu. Looks like he's going to be going over into the left-hand lane. No Booma's Mask for the Odin, so it looks like they will be just heading towards the laning. Emir has a ward. Looks like he's just going to ward and then head on home. With his lane mate, of course, is going to be the Odin up on played by Cobra Kai. Now in the middle lane, we'll see Sun Touch playing his Poseidon. He's been playing him 2 out of the 3 games thus far. In the right lane, we'll see Apollo played by Smacktrix. Now in the Noel, Fat Master up on Amir just went out and did that ward and went head back to get the Mark of the Vanguard, also the consumables and that Hand of the Gods. On the opposite side of the map, you will see Denial EU heading into their lanes as well. On the left-hand side, you will see Game Hunter playing On Her. With his lane mate is going to be Bacchus, played by Resterian. In the middle lane, we will see Sprayern playing Aphrodite up against that Poseidon on the enemy side. And of course, on the right-hand side, we will see Sobek played by Mugiwawa, subbing in for Trix Tank, who apparently had to go. And then, of course, Cubo Fred playing Thor.
So Normal start again. We see the gold camp on the bottom there, left side going towards red, and then we see the speed buff start, which is a little less, I guess, familiar. Denial's been doing this all day today, and again the gold camp towards the right side as well on top. So all pretty normal starts, nothing crazily out of the ordinary. But again, no Bumba's Mask this game for eLEMON, and they have been running it pretty much all day. Denial opting to go for it once again with that roaming Thor. This time, Cubo Fred's going to take the role that Proxy QQ took last time, and I love that they're going to start off in this side, giving Thor the only real weakness that he has, and of course, that's the blue buff, ensuring that he has more mana to run around and do what he does best, and that's just jump out of nowhere and kill absolutely everything.
Well, this means that we're going to have a solo Sobek. Now, Sobek doesn't really have that great of a push. He really, really doesn't. I mean, he has the Tail Whip and he has the Sickening Strike, but that's about it. Now, he does have the dash to get away, and once he hits level 5, he can replenish his mana pool using his ultimate and also clear a whole wave once that Lurking the Waters is off cooldown. But again, it doesn't really, bode well to success. So it looks like Cubo Fred wants to blink over the wall and jump on this Poseidon. Will not have the opportunity to do so. Kind of just waiting it out here. Poseidon actually wanders over to the damage buff and forces him to leash it. No, he actually hits it at the very edge of that, still holding on to it. Poseidon's going to rotate over, looks for the Whirlpool and forces him to leash it, and that's really all he wanted to do, was just, put him in a corner, make him leash it, slow him down, and cut his route short. Very smart play by Suntouch there, being very, disciplined and focused, realizing exactly what he wanted to do, and then doing that and getting out.
I think if they really turned on that, they could have killed Poseidon there. I mean, Tectonic Rift, I'm sorry, no, he was only level 2, which means he only had Mjolnir's attunement. No, that was a great play. I mean, he can't really recognize the fact that he was level 2 in that situation, but very, very smart.
Definitely, and he just kind of, now that's going to force Thor to back off. Doesn't have that damage buff, doesn't have the extra experience. Thor now sitting at level 3, look at the total gold, just about 2,000 gold. Actually has a good amount of gold thus far, but now forced to go over to the medium camp and then go ahead and head home during all of that. We see Bacchus and On Her over in the left-hand lane, forcing back Guan Yu and the Odin. Odin has blue buff and damage buff, and I expect him to be a little more aggressive than he is being currently. I mean, his harassment has been a little bit few and far between.
So right lane, I'm not sure what Sobek can really do here. He's having a little bit of trouble. Oh, look at this rotation over. They recognize that the red buff has not been picked up yet, and they're going to rotate over to try to steal it. There is a Hand of the Gods on Ymir, and they're going to have a good chance. Now, Thor does see this happening, but they're really not going to have a chance to stop this in a 3v2. He uses the Hand of the Gods immediately and try to stop, instead of trying to secure. And looks like Proxy QQ is going to jump in there and steal that away from them, securing it for himself as Sobek rotates over. Thor's in a little bit of trouble here, but the So Beautiful has been used. There's not a lot of damage they can really put onto this Thor. Thor can rotate over. You see the Mjolnir's attunement being used perfectly. Berserker Barrage. Cubo Fred has drawn first blood.
Killing the Ymir, and you gotta question that Hand of the God used by the Ymir, using it early instead of to secure the buff just in case. He obviously wanted to give it to the Apollo and just kind of hop in, and it seemed like he was just on, like, automate there, kind of running into the jungle and using the Hand of the Gods to help out his carry, but he had to know he was invading the enemy jungle and was in a situation where they could rotate over and take it. Now in the left-hand lane, we see Honor hitting level 5 and Box hitting level 5, so they have opportunity to initiate here or possibly go for a kill, most likely on the Guan Yu, who cannot leap away, but again, that was just really great play by Denial. Denial will now take it 1-0, starting out at 3.5 minutes. We'll have that first blood, now up 700 gold.
I mean, that was a really big swing, especially considering they were trying to deny Cubo Fred. So not only did he get that experience and get that gold out of their hands, but two people were now forced out of lane for a very long time, missing a lot of farm, missing a lot of gold. Sobek went back there with little trouble whatsoever. And of course, now roaming the map, level 5 Cubo Fred's going to start rotating and really looking for opportunities to put his team even farther into the lead. At this point, he could really opt to gank either mid or right lane, and it looks like he is going to go towards mid. Poseidon in trouble, does seem to recognize the threat, but he's pissed just in time. Level 6 will be able to use the Kraken, but will it be in time? Mjolnir's attunement not doing enough damage to stop it, but Poseidon is pushed out of lane, and Cubo Fred will have absolutely no threat here, so he will be able to go back safely as a little bit more feed goes on to Sprayon. He has a good chance to push. Honestly, in this situation, I would say for Sprayon to just sit there, let the creeps kill each other, and take a little bit more of a lead. Maybe even feed some of it to Ymir, because, I mean, it's much better on Ymir than it is in Poseidon, at least for them.
It certainly is. So Sobek over here in the right-hand lane. Sobek actually doing a decent job of holding this down by himself. Apollo, pushing this up as much as he can, trying to push some damage into this tower. But Sobek just holding it down. Looks like Sobek still has his ultimate available if he needs it. He might use it here. No, he's going to use a Sickening Strike and probably the tail up right after this, just buying time for the minions to come through, tanking the damage that they deal out. Guan Yu over here in the left-hand lane, going to be pushing this lane up. And it seems like the same situation we saw last game where Guan Yu and Bacchus are kind of just looking at each other, solo farming, not really doing too much with themselves, as we see, on her going over and clearing the buff camps, and then we see Odin, of course, clearing out the buff camps himself. It's going to come down to, and look at the individual gold for this Thor. Thor now 1-0, has the Boombo's mask, clearing out the jungle, and now is at 3,300 gold. You contrast that to Poseidon in the middle lane, he's now 3,200 gold, so he's actually out farming the enemy middle lane by 200 gold without even being in the middle lane, just jungling around, just because of that first blood and a lot of the buffs and jungle camps that he's getting.
I mean, at the same time, Aphrodite's having a very hard time. A lot of gold loss to the tower there, as every time the tower hits an enemy creep, it does reduce the amount of gold that it gives. So he's doing a great job of keeping her push, but now that she's level 7, she's not having much trouble anymore, using one wave of birds plus the get back. I mean, there's not much Poseidon can do to stop her from farming anymore, but at the same time, there's not really much either of them can do to outpush each other. Now, right on the right line, in the right jungle, you're seeing Ymir kind of focusing up here. Looking at the items, he does have level 1 blink. It might be on cooldown. I'm not sure if it is or not, but he is just going to retreat after placing a few wards down. Maybe getting a little bit more, I guess, information for Thor here. He doesn't want, I guess, too many ganks going down for his lane, so he has very ample information and I guess just overall vision on the right side of the map. Very smart play.
It certainly is. Guan Yu doing the best he can in the jungle, or keep his wave off of the tower. Cobra Kai now returning to left lane to force this back and help him out. Guan Yu finally having a chance to get some relief and head on home. Nothing really being picked up just yet besides the boots and active items in the game. Mir's still sitting on the active tier 1 Hand of the Gods and Blink, and then of course you see Bacchus decided to go for a Hand of the Gods meditation, and this means he will be able to drink himself up a lot. Bacchus does have a little bit of mana issues, as Odin kind of goes in there to try and trap him in with his ultimate, doing a lot of damage to the Honor. There's each damage uses, but the Desert Freeze is going to finish him off. I'm not sure why the Odin decided to stay inside of his own ultimate for that long, especially in a 2v1 situation, but again, it ended up being his downfall here in the left lane. That's going to be a double kill so far, 2-0 now at the 7-minute mark for Denial EU, up about 1,400 gold. But back to my original point, actually when I have his initiative in the jungle, looks like they're going to be forced back. Charge Spray comes out for the Sobek, and they're just going to go ahead and disengage here. Back to my original point, I mean, the meditation up on the block is going to put him in a very, offensive position, but really doesn't have a whole lot to defend himself with.
Red buff, I'm surprised that they're just letting this go so casually. I mean, they fought for it so hard. I mean, Thor's still roaming around the map as the only jungler level 8. Everyone on the team level 8 or level 9. We see 2 level 7s over on eLEMON, so there is a major difference now in level as the 9s start peeking out here. You see the mids at level 9. I'm sure Thor's getting very close. And the gold, 1,300 in favor now of Denial. They're doing a very good job of roaming around the map and ensuring that people just stay shut down. It doesn't help that on the left side, I mean, you see that they can't really do much to push out Bacchus. He does have meditation, and in some situations, it's a very good item, especially when you're just trying to sit there and ensure that your team is just farmed and it can push and just stay present. And I mean, there's no item that can make you stay present at early game as well as meditation. It's just late game it falls off. But since the buff to the actual healing, I'm sorry, to the buff to the item where it allows you to heal you, Bacchus, who has a lot of health, especially if he decides to build something like Bulwark of Hope or Hide of the Nemean Lion, can be amazing. But here comes Thor coming in hot, dropping down. You see a lot of damage coming through. Berserker Barrage swinging through 3 people. The Kraken hits, but only really hits on top of Rysterian's Bacchus. This could be dangerous. No, actually winds up missing all 3 people, and Fab goes down in the process. Another swing coming out, but here comes Proxy, able to pick up Cubo Fred and stop that roaming a little bit. Sprayer also joining the fray as well, but Rysterian is perfectly in there. Got the stun off. Charge Prey goes through as well, but Proxy's just a little bit too fed and will be able to get out. So a one for 2 now, again in favor of Denial. Another great pickup, increasing their gold lead by about 3 or 4 more hundred there, and ensuring that they get a little bit more farm as just over eLEMON as well. So going now, it looks like, again, 4-1. They have a massive lead, especially in terms of level with 3 level 10s.
that was, I mean, it's so deceiving to watch how much damage Aphrodite can do. I mean, just dropping the birds on top of the Apollo on his way out. He made it, you know, from the jungle all the way into tower range and then just died the damage over time effect. I mean, they just do so much damage that Apollo really just couldn't stand up to it. Over in the left lane, we see Odin kind of pushing this back up. Thor actually going to be counter jungling here, taking out the enemy damage buff and clean this out quite easily with that Boomba's mask. Now we see the first items starting to dawn, and Poseidon is actually going to go for the first item being Rod of Tahuti, which means he's playing for the mid game. He's not looking to get anything out of this. He realizes he's a little bit behind, and he's going to wait for those team fights to start happening. And once he has that Rod of Tahuti finish, he will be doing a lot of burst damage, which his team is really relying on.
I'm really surprised. You know, I don't think before today I've ever really seen a Poseidon more than once decide to go for anything except for Gem. I mean, Gem is beyond staple. I mean, it's beyond core. It is necessary on this character to make him good. I mean, granted, his damage can be very high in the Kraken, but the Whirlpool Gem combo is what makes the character good, and without it, you kind of fall behind. Even if you get fed, you're still falling behind. You're not helping your team as much. You're playing a burst, you're playing by yourself. And I think that's the problem is Suntouch is playing a 9v1 game instead of playing as a team. I mean, his rotations are a little bit late. I mean, he's not communicating with his team to gank that mid lane. He's just kind of playing, looking for kills for himself, and it's not really working out. Oh, I'm sorry, did you catch that?
Yes. So that grabbed the Ymir, threw him directly into the tower range, and then right as that happened, he tail whipped him up into the air, went into his ultimate lurking in the waters, and right as Ymir got out of tower range, Thor dunked down from above, keeping him there, and then right afterwards, the Sobek ultimate went off, and they just had enough damage to burn him down in the process. There goes the damage output on top of the Apollo. Apollo being forced back here. Sobek kind of looked for opportunity to charge prey, misses the charge prey. There's the tail going to force him away from him. Thor there. Thor's just going to go back to his jungle route, and Sobek going to be content to sit here and just farm this back up. Guan Yu going for a bit of a damage build with the Boots of the Magi into the Void Stone, something we see a lot from Guan Yu, as he can do a lot of damage output. Speaking of Guan Yu over in the left lane being forced back by the Bacchus and the On Her, there goes the damage output away, pushing this all the way up. Surprisingly enough, we have no towers down. In fact, only 2 towers in the game have damage, 3 towers, apologize. 3 towers the damage have damage on them, being the mid tower and the right tower for Denial, and the left tower for eLEMON. So it's been all about God kills and jungling instead of actually pushing towers so far into the game. But Denial taking a very decisive 5-1 lead thus far into the game, about a 2.2k at gold advantage on top of all of that.
Again, looking at the levels, 2 level 12s now, and the rest level 10 or level 11 compared to the level 8 Ymir. We have level 10s all around, but only 1 level 12 on the side of eLEMON. Not to mention, like you said, the deficit in gold. Denial has a very good chance to turn this into something special here. You see rotation over, gets the stun, but it doesn't look like Spray Iron was quite ready to jump in there, not initiating at all. Thor's going to go back over towards the right side, and he does have his ultimate. He could turn this around on this Apollo right now. It really depends on, I guess, how worried they are, but they did have a ward towards Fire Giant. They saw him walk over, so there's not going to be any trouble whatsoever. Suntouch actually recognizing this as well is going to go over and maybe set something up, but what he doesn't know is that he's running right through a ward as well. He is in absolute vision. They spot him out. Actually, Ymir blinking in for the freeze. Ymir actually getting flung into the tower, stunned inside after the tail whip. Look at the amount of damage that Fab has taken. He's trying to ult there, but he ulted inside a tower range, and he died for it. Hugo Fred completely safe now, is actually opting to go back in. Is this real? He's diving in. Look at the fling. Going down on top of the Poseidon, but inside the Whirlpool. Uses Aegis to stop the damage, but not enough. It is only a level 1. Aegis only lasts for 1 second for a 2v1 in that situation, allowing Spray Arm to rotate over. He might be able to pick up Smatrix as well. Smatrix has not ulted soon enough. The birds come out, nails him. The moves are set. The charge prays through, but the birds were just enough to pick it up for a 3-for-1 pickup on the jungler. Absolutely brilliant play by Denial. I can't believe he decided to go back in. Beautiful.
That was amazing and so brave. I mean, he knew exactly what he needed. And if he didn't get that Whirlpool off just the last second, Thor would have got away with it as well. I mean, Paul probably didn't have enough to stick it in. And you can see the damage output from Aphrodite yet again. It seems like that's the second time this game that Aphrodite kind of wanders over to the right lane, throws out a birds and get a kill on top of Apollo. Apollo now sitting at about 0-2 and 2. Doesn't really have any. He has 2 active items. He has Devourer's Gloves 1, but he's just falling behind in gold. And it seems like eLEMON is having a tough time keeping themselves afloat thus far. Now 8-2 up against the Denial EU. 14 minutes into this game with about a 3,300 gold lead, and this is pretty much a repeat of last week where Denial loses game 1 in a explosive fashion, and then they come back in game 2 and they hold on to it, and then game 3 they just completely dominate.
I mean, you're right. That's exactly what we saw last week. Oh, Bach is just barely on the right lane, not getting stuck inside that Odinel, using the burp, catching none of them in the process. It doesn't look like he was tipsy in that situation. You can't really see the bubbles. But here comes the Thor once again. Cubo Fred slamming that hammer down on top. Proxy QQ, a lot of damage. Not much he can do. The get back's going to be able to pick him up, no problems. Where is he going to throw the birds? He's going to try to hit a nice pillar, plus a kiss on top, plus the birds. Smacktrix had nowhere to go. Here comes the Kraken, and it does land quite steadily, picking up Game Hunter. Restarian's in a lot of trouble as well, but it doesn't look like they cared too much. Cubo Fred actually diving for the tower to pick up the third kill. Again, 4 for 1. A surrender vocal.
No!
15 minutes!
Why would no? A 15-minute surrender vote, and the Minotaur is going to fall in slow motion. You can look at the total numbers here on the scoreboard. For some reason, they give away the third game in a best-of-3. Denial will be your victors for the second week in a row.
I don't agree with that surrender. I mean, granted, you may have just lost 4 people, and that's rough, but, I mean, there was only a 5,000 gold difference. The levels weren't that shaky. I mean, there definitely could have been an objective turnaround, but I guess they just weren't feeling their team comp. I still can't believe they didn't first pick Ymir. I mean, they got him, but I don't understand what that was about. But eLEMON could have turned that around handily. They could have turned that around easily. I'm not in support of the surrender, but once again, for the second week in a row, it looks like Denial Esports are your champion for the slowest Minotaur death I've ever seen. Drybear, what are you doing?
I am feeling the moment. I don't know. That surrender vote came out of nowhere, and I don't see the reason to give up a best-of-3 series, Game 3, where you're 1-1 tied, you're 5,000 gold behind. Who cares if you're 12-3? I mean, you've prepared for this. You had an opportunity to get a kill there. You gave away a little bit over there in the side lane, of course, but that was not over by any means. They still had the opportunity to come back. Maybe it's been a long day, and they don't want to try and fight and grovel and fiend for the last match. But again, I mean, you had the opportunity to come back into that game. That was not a sure win.
Well, it's currently 5 p.m. This is the exact 8-hour mark that Dry and I have been casting this tournament. And before we go, we're going to talk a little bit about that post game and maybe where things went wrong. And I think right off the bat, it went wrong at the red buff. When that red buff wasn't initially taken by Cuba Fred, I mean, we saw Suntouch go in there and kind of scare him away. They went back in as a 3. You saw Ymir jump in there, use the Hand of the Gods too early. Instead of trying to secure it, just try to do damage to it. Maybe just pick it up as fast as possible, not waste any damage. But then Thor jumps in. Mjolnir's attunement jumps in there real quick, uses Berserker Barrage, picks it up, and then turns the fight around completely, getting a perfect stun onto the Ymir, and then smacking right through both walls, both the jungle wall and Ymir's wall, throws the Mjolnir's attunement, hits him with the front, teleports in, hits him with an auto attack, and finishes him up. It was gorgeous.
Just excellent play. I mean, Thor just ran away with that game early on, getting the first blood. He, perfectly stole the damage buff, then blinked over the wall, waited for the Ymir wall to be done, and then used his blink to get the first blood on the Ymir. And after that, it all went downhill. Aphrodite was in a perfect situation. She literally had to just sit in her lane and farm because there were so many rotations going on that just worked for them so well. I honestly am surprised that Sobek was so, comfortable solo laning over there. I mean, Sobek was would be in a very low tier choice for one of my solo laners, being that god there. I mean, he doesn't really have a whole lot of push or control. He has enough mana regeneration with his ultimate and good lane clear, and he's very tanky. And he does have the benefit of the being that if anyone comes over to gank Sobek's lane, Sobek can initiate that quite easily. So he has that opportunity where if they're going to gank for Sobek, Sobek can contribute heavily to that. So that could be what they were looking for, especially with the fact that Thor can come in from the skies. They got a couple kills with that combination there. I mean, Game Hunter and Restarian just held down the left lane completely. They had no pressure over there as well. You see Bacchus at 0-0-7, a very, very acceptable support score, if I do say so myself. And the numbers do reflect all of that. And we can hop over and check out the total items built up for these players. But again, I think it just came down to the fact that eLEMON just fell apart in this last match and ended up just giving away a little bit too much.
Again, second week in a row, Denial making themselves very, very known, beating not only eLEMON, but everyone else that they faced today, not to mention last week where they finished a 2-1 over Root. So 2 weeks in a row, we're able to just really secure Game 3 and just push Game 3 in their favor. And there really wasn't much they could do about it, only dropping 3 kills in the process. They were completely dominant through that game. And while I do think there could have been a significant comeback there, the game was far from over. And I do recommend that people at home watching don't consider this something they should be doing in their normal games. I mean, early surrenders sometimes are very necessary, but in this case, I think they could have turned it around. I would have liked to see a little bit more, but I do respect the fact that they didn't want to frustrate themselves further. They just weren't feeling it. Maybe as a cohesive unit, the teamwork was a little bit lacking. You see the rotations were late, and of course, you have to be frustrated by this Thor who's just every time your ward goes down, he's just in your lane killing you. I mean, Cuvo Fred for the second week in a row has just blown my mind.
Such a talented player, and they have a lot of talent. I mean, even with Mugiwawa stepping in and subbing in for Trickstank in the last match. I mean, obviously 2-0-5 with a lot. I mean, he had a solo kill once or twice there, and also initiated for the Thor as well. I mean, it was just so difficult to deal with. I mean, looking at chat, it seemed like a couple of players for eLEMON had been streaming, for over 10 hours. They're very exhausted, so a couple things happened there for them. But then it's going to be something that really comes out for. It's a best of 3. You want to try to play that out. It's got to be demoralizing to have that jungle rotate over for you, but it's something that you probably want to just play that out and try and win as much as you possibly can, and just make sure that that the viewers get the games they deserve, and also you get more practice with the competition that you're up against. But it's pretty exciting to see Boomba's mask being picked up and utilized heavily. I mean, even these last 3 games of the finals, it was picked up every single game. In one game, it was picked up on both teams, so it was kind of exciting to see that meta shift yet again. And we'll see if it becomes a different thing, or if the item gets adjusted or removed, or what happens with that. I mean, I think you touched on something really important there with the item itself, is that it's pretty important for a gold game, but at certain points you can sell it to get a good amount back from it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure about the exact amount. I think it's somewhere in the 500 range. But using that to finish up an item is very important once you reach your 4th or 5th item, and you won't be jungling as much. You're really not earning much experience or gold for it if you're not jungling almost nonstop. I mean, you need to be constantly taking camps. So once you maybe hit the 15 or 16 mark, it might even be worth it to sell it at that point. But you do want to keep it until you really feel that you're going to stop your jungling and ensure that you're either ganking nonstop or in lane trying to push towers down. But I mean, only about 20 minutes into the game, or I'm sorry, 15 minutes into the game, there really wasn't a reason for him to sell it. I mean, he was about to finish his Void Blade. They just killed 4 people. He was about to become very, very strong.
Certainly is, Chad.
What are you laughing about?
Joke there. Told me to stop staring at the camera because it's creepy.
Who, you?
Yeah, me. I was looking right at the audience. I wanted them to feel it. But I mean, that's really what it comes down to, and it seemed to work. It worked pretty well overall. We saw it early in the tournament. We saw it towards the mid stage of the tournament. We also saw it pretty much throughout the entirety of the final. And we saw, Cubo Fred playing really well regardless of what he ended up being picked up there. It wasn't as exotic as yesterday's tournament with the Arachne pickup, which obviously didn't work out too well in the end. But we definitely saw some strange picks here. And it seems like Aphrodite mid is becoming more and more commonplace, and for good reason. I mean, we saw Aphrodite casually wander over to the right lane, throw out a bird, and it did about a third of Apollo's HP, and killed him twice, and just walked back over the middle lane. With that extra HP, you have a lot of exchanging power, you have a lot of heals, you allow damage output. I mean, it's really, really strong for the mid lane, and once you have a lot of levels up, the ultimate's going to last forever, and you have that back off, which is tons of damage.
Dry Bear, you see the use of the word somehow in this guy's post right now? Somehow.
Whoa.
Hit us with
There's
that
no way to start a war
S-word.
here. There's no way to start a war. Oh my god,
here.
DM's hurt. Cryptical. You have broken his heart. You broke his heart.
So at the end of the day, once again, Denial, second week in a row. I mean, very impressive. A lot of people thought they were going to be one-shot wonders here. A few people actually telling the community that maybe it was because of the ping. They didn't have to fight SK. And once again, I think they managed to sidestep SK as well in the tournament. eLEMON actually being the ones to take them out. But with amazing performance throughout, it's undeniable that Denial is currently top in EU with the way that they've been playing. I mean, unbelievable. And for the first time, and I mean, we saw SK lose last week, and that's fine. Everyone has off weeks. But this is the first week that I've really seen SK not in control. And what I mean by that is we see them show up. They're like, we're going to play Aphrodite mid. We're going to play Thor mid with Potion. And granted, they didn't have their full roster. Smek wasn't there. And usually I don't like to use the sub excuse because you have subs for a reason. And Gortak is an amazing player. But there's not many people in the world that can replace Smek. But at the same time, they weren't ready for the meta. They weren't ready for jungling at all. They had no answer to it. The eLEMON ran all over them. Proxy Q literally did whatever he wanted throughout the entire game with little effort whatsoever. So I mean, this is the first week where I think that SK truly like had no chance going in. Like I felt like they were not the same team that we usually see. So going in, it didn't look like they had much of a chance, but they did manage to beat VexEU for the third place. So second week in a row, they taken third place. We've seen a new second place with eLEMON Gaming taking the spot of as Root played yesterday. I think they also took third place yesterday. And then Denial again for the second week, your EU champions. And I'm pumped just because I think their teamwork and their strategies are beautiful. And I love the fact that they're fun and they're nice to each other and they're very cooperative to the community. And I think they're very good role models. If you guys want to see some really high level play, when these guys stream in, you got to check it out.
Most certainly, and all these players as well. I mean, the Denial players, the eLEMON players as well. I mean, there's just so much talent in this Smite community, and so many, I mean, I feel like we're playing, musical teams here as we kind of the rosters change up, and we're in early stages of closed beta, or well, later stages of closed beta, but still in beta in general, as these players kind of find their home. So definitely follow the players individually, but also the teams overall. SK Gaming did take 2-0 against Vex Gaming in the bronze match, as DM Brennan mentioned there, so they will be third place. Vex Gaming EU taking second or fourth place there, and then Denial Esports, of course, for the second week in a row will take first place, which, I mean, we saw it was an SK dominated tournament prior. I mean, the first three, it was SK every single time, and then 4 and 5 we saw Denial take that. So it's gonna be interesting to see, how does SK rally? How do they come back? I mean, how does eLEMON learn from this? These kind of games. I mean, we haven't seen eLEMON even make it to the finals up until now. So I mean, this is gonna be their first final appearance where they come out, and it was very strong. I mean, game 1 was a dominant performance, but it just felt like, Denial has this system where regardless of what happens in game 1, they learn from it and they make a plan on the fly. I mean, they're just so intelligent. I love watching Denial play. They're just so smart, and they're so good at picking apart the bits and pieces from a strategy that makes it effective and then shutting down those components so the overall strategy falls apart. I mean, Game 1, it looked like Denial was on the ropes the entire time. They had no way to shut it down. They fell apart the entire time. But then Game 2, they came back and said, we know exactly what is making this strategy work. We're going to pick out those pieces. We're going to shut it down. We're going to control Game 2. And then Game 3, we're going to bolster that up and shut down that morale and make sure that they can't come back for Game 3. And they did exactly that. And they're going to do it again. I mean, they did it last week. They did it this week. They're just such intelligent players with a lot of talent. And I really have a lot of respect for Denial. Of course, giving a lot of big ups for eLEMON, making it for their first time and their first debut into the finals with a new roster. Suntech coming out strong this week on the new eLEMON roster there, playing a lot of great positioning and plays overall with that. And I was really excited to watch these players play. But I mean that's going to be it for us, DM. I mean, what can we say about today?
Well, moving away from today, Drybear and I were actually talking about getting a little bit more tournament footage for you guys during the week, or even scrim footage. So if you guys are interested in watching us maybe cast weekday showcase matches or anything like that during the 7 to 10 slot when I'm on Smite Game, make sure to post on Reddit, send us Twitch messages. If you really want to see it happen, we'll try to put something together. But we're only going to do it if you guys want to see it. We don't want to do it for 300 or 400 people. We want to make sure that the community is going to come together and we can make a big thing out of it. We like spectacles. So if you want to hit us up about that, post on the Reddit. Send us Twitch messages, follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/juicediem, DIEM, and of course, twitter.com/drybeargamers.
You'll see it in the top right-hand corner of the screen on the splash screen there, right next to the high-res logo. It's going to be at JuiceDM and at DryBearGamers. Go ahead and follow us and let us know what you think about today, what you think about Spite, or what you think about anything, of course. So a lot of fun stuff. I did actually record these matches. I'll be throwing those up on YouTube, and if anyone wants to find the finals match as well, so we can catch those on YouTube. But I mean, that's going to be it for today. A really exciting matchup, and Denial's going to take its second week in a row for the exact same formula. It seems like they're just kind of following into the footsteps that they set out for themselves last week, and it's just really exciting to see how much competition there is. I mean, I personally was excited to see how many teams came out to play today, DM. We had, 20 teams signed up for this tournament? 21 teams signed up. I mean, I can go ahead and show you on screen. Let's go ahead and look at the brackets really quick to see exactly how big they were. I mean, you guys haven't looked at them yourselves, but I mean, just look how big this EU tournament bracket is on screen. It's gigantic. It is so big to see how, it just kind of split up and all these teams competing. You see SK, rolling through this little bracket that had a bye beginning and facing off. It's really exciting to see, how many teams come out to play, how many of them are, competing and practicing and, exerting their will upon the meta and competition that is Smite.
All right, so moving forward, guys, that's just going to be about it for us today. I could not be any more tired than I am currently.
That is a lie.
This is about. Oh no, you're right. That was definitely a lie. But it has been about 8.5 hours. Me and Dry Bear both showed up about 15 minutes early to ensure that everything was ready to go. So pushing out about 8.5. That was a sentence.
That is going to be the final words.
That was my Bart impression. Did you like it?
Oh my God!
Hold on, wait.
Let's cut this off here.
Wait.
We're gonna go ahead and cut the tournament off right now. Oh my God! He's gonna get sunglasses. I know it. I know it. He did. He did. Oh my God! The grin on his face. Oh geez, we need to cut this cast. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We have been with you all day long for this EU tournament. Thank you for the EU players who stuck around deep into the night. Thank you to all the Pacific people like myself who got up at 5 a.m. to make this happen, and thank you to all the all the Eastern people who I guess you guys were around too. But we're gonna go ahead and cut the cast for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next week at the exact same time. You will find myself tonight at 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. on this exact same channel, just streaming and playing some Smite. DM tomorrow from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern as well. Catch them on this channel. We're both around, always doing lots of crazy stuff. And of course, catch the NA tournament next Saturday at the exact same time, and also the EU tournament, not exact same time. I believe it's 11 a.m. Eastern or 12 Eastern.
What?
It's near the afternoon for the NA tournament, but the EU tournament is one to watch anyway on next Sunday, which is going to be the 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, or the 3 p.m. CET. We will catch you next time. Thank you so much for sticking around, and of course we will have streamers throughout the rest of the day.